All right, guys, this video is part 3 for fixing poor soil. I would recommend that you watch part 1 and 2 before you get to part 3, and that way you'll have a better knowledge of what's going on by the time you get to this video. So feel free to take a look at those. In this particular video, I'm going to cover bacteria and worms and the importance of both of these. Now, in order to have soil functioning correctly or at a high level for your deer, you need earthworms. Lots of worms. The more the merrier. Worms are the aerators of soil. They poke all kinds of holes in it. Whenever it rains, you think of it in terms of a sponge. If you look at a sponge, you see all those aerated holes in a sponge. Well, as soon as you dump water in it, guess what? That water goes straight down into the middle of the sponge. And then it spreads out all over the place before it finally drains out. That's the exact same thing that worms do to soil. They will come in here, tunnel, dig holes, deep, shallow, crisscrossing all over the place. Doesn't matter. There's no rhyme or reason. Just wherever they find food. That will aerate your soil. It also gives these plants a much better shot at getting roots deeper into the soil, which helps grow larger plants, more nutritious plants, higher production yields, and of course, the thing that we all like to see is bigger, healthier deer. So that is the byproduct of good soil. That means your other animals are going to get bigger as the nutrition value increases. So that's the very important thing for worms. I'm also going to give you another tip on this, and I'm going to have to go back and see if I can find the study on this. Some of the numbers are a little fuzzy in my head, but if you plant, let's see here, if you plant crimson clover in your soil, it has an effect on worms. Different plants have different effects on earthworms. It's hard to believe that, but somebody did a study on this. So crimson is super beneficial to earthworms. It says that the average worm size of the worm I'm talking about increased by 39% over areas that didn't have that plant in it. And also the average population, which I'm kind of fuzzy on remembering the number, but it's either like 48% or maybe 58% in a population increase in worms. So I'm putting crimson clover out here not only for a nitrogen fixing ability, but to try to make this an earthworm farm. And a lot of people don't realize the depth that people have went to study healthy soil. So I want worms in here. I want lots of worms. I want big worms, little worms. It does not matter. Worm castings is the byproduct of earthworms, and they are some of the most fertile soil you can get. And that will definitely increase the size of your plants, help with plant yields, better nutrition, just like I mentioned before. So if you don't take care of your earthworms, you're going to be stuck in that fertilizing mode more and more than you normally would. And it might be an expensive cycle that you feel like you can't get out of. And I thought the same thing too when I was first getting going. I was like, my gosh, if this fertilizer keeps up like this, I can't afford to keep going. And eventually I found a way to break free of that. And now I'm able to do a whole lot more with far less money than what I used to spend. So now let's move to the next phase of things. That is bacteria. There is another problem in this soil, and I didn't pull up a plant. Basically, there's just not much really to pull up other than some of the deer vetch, which I might try that here. So let's find, here's one. All right, so we have some roots to look at here, and there is a major problem with bacteria here. So if I shake all the dirt off, at least what I can, look at that. Not really clinging to it at all. Now, there is some very good news here. If you look right here, let me see if I can get my camera to focus. There is a nodule of bacteria. Right there's another one. And then there's one little small one, although my camera just lost focus. There's one small nodular right there. So I at least have something in here benefiting the soil, although it's not a lot. I expect to see a whole lot more nodulars than that. Now there's one more. Still not enough, but there is another one right here at my fingertip. So we have one problem here that I see is there's not enough bacteria to make that soil stick to the roots. Whenever you have a thriving soil, you'll notice that when you pull plants out of the ground, the dirt will stick to the roots. That is like the enzyme that the bacteria emit that bonds soil to roots. So as easy as I pulled that out of the ground, gave it a few shakes, everything fell off of it. So I don't have enough good bacteria in here yet to really get plants going like I want. Down here, the bacteria level is much better, far less fertilizer, and I'm getting much better results than I am over here. Now we have to break down the fact that there are two types of bacteria. There is the good bacteria and there is bad bacteria. Good bacteria is the one you want. That helps keep your pH level balanced, or as close as possible to being balanced. So let's say that you get a soil test back and it comes back you have either slightly acidic ground or very acidic ground. If you're on that end of the scale, that means you don't have enough good bacteria to help override the bad. Bad bacteria produces an acidic enzyme which sends your pH level the wrong direction. So you have to address that, and usually what they will tell you to do in order to balance it is put a whole bunch of lime out, which you're going to have to initially. You put your lime out, and then we start focusing on the other problems of the soil, which goes back to part one. That is the lack of organic matter, lack of carbon. And once you start addressing those two problems, the good bacteria starts thriving. You've also reduced the soil pH level to a more favorable position when you lime. So if you get it anywhere from, let's say 6.5 up to as high as 7, I would not like to be over 7. Anywhere in that zone, you're doing a really good job of having good bacteria, keeping control of your soil. So guess what? You no longer have the cost of lime. You've got everything else working right, and you no longer need lime. So we have to really help bacteria. Now, there are different ways you can do this. Usually, whenever you create a rotting mat like this, you're encouraging bacteria to feed on dying plants. And that is one way that you gain a quick explosion of bacteria, as long as the sun is not baking your soil. Bare soil will kill good bacteria and most, if not all, the bad bacteria. So be careful about leaving soil exposed for long periods of time, especially during the summer. You know, in the wintertime, it's obviously not going to be nowhere near as hot. The sun doesn't have as much energy to heat the ground, so you can get away with it a little bit longer, but I don't like having bare soil at all. I need something growing 24/7. In order to keep the bacteria thriving and keep building new soil, that's why I keep a constant growing cycle somewhere, either in the main food plot or the food plot in the woods. I have to have something going all the time. And now, if you focused on putting organic matter back in your soil, and let's say maybe you don't have quite the result that you're looking for, there is an alternative. You can go out and buy Maryca fungi and put that over your soil. It comes in a powder form, and all it takes is a microscopic amount of that, and the bacteria can thrive in your soil. So if you buy one little bag, you're thinking, man, it won't cover. That one little bag will easily cover this spot. So if you feel like you want to up your bacteria, you can purchase that bacteria to help with the good versus bad bacteria. So you could get a leg up faster by introducing the bacteria to start with. So there's different ways of approaching the bacteria problem. You will also, as you start realizing when you're breaking down the organic matter here, you're going to get fungus. There's good fungus, there's bad fungus, just like there is bacteria. And in most cases, you should be all right with the fungus growing in here. Shouldn't be a problem at all in most cases. And of course, that's why I stick out Sun Hemp. That will eliminate the bad fungus or viruses in your soil. So this keeps everything in check. So that definitely goes back to plant selection. I try to give myself as much knowledge as possible, but I haven't researched everything yet, and I do so when I have spare time. But I try to take notes and look at boring lectures, and you might discover the missing piece you need. Sometimes it's worth the wait. So now we've covered 6 different topics in this soil that is wrong with it and how to address it. So you can fix your bacteria through purchasing it or using rotting biomass to try to build your numbers that way. You want to get your earthworms up. You can also purchase worms, turn them loose in your food plot if you need to. Same thing with nutrition. Go out and buy it, put it in the soil. It's going to have it at some point, and then you start the weaning off stage of the synthetic fertilizer around year 2. Start using about 25% less if you can, and then keep downgrading from there until you get to 0. It's all up to you on the judgment call on how much you need to cut back on. But eventually the whole goal is to make this soil function naturally, and that way you don't have to worry about any side effects to your deer or what you're eating, whatever you're growing. It is Mother Nature's intent. It's basically God's intent. Do it naturally and things will work out much better than most of the synthetic stuff we tend to pump out today. All right, guys, this is not quite the end, but we are going to do some future videos on this. I just wanted to do this area here because it is in year 1, and as I continue to do crop rotations in here, I think you're going to see that from year to year this is going to get better. And if I do fertilizing, I will video that so you can document that yourself, so you can say, okay, he's used 100 pounds here or 150 pounds there, and then next year you might see me use 100 pounds, maybe 75 pounds. It just depends on what I think I need. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy these videos, and you all have a fantastic day.